Count of Monte Cristo.
That's Cristo, you dumb shit.
By Alexandre Dumas.
Dumbass. Dumas. You know what that's about? You'll like it. It's about a prison break.
We ought to file that under cheat codes too, oughtn't we? Hey, everybody. It's October 14th, 2016. Welcome to episode 114 of the Cheat Codes Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. We're always glad to have you with us. The next hour is us drinking a few beers and going over our favorite bits from the past week in video game tech and pop culture news. My name is Joe Erskine. I am your host, and we're coming to you from a tunnel in a prison wall guarded by a poster of Rita Hayworth. Go to Google, you'll figure it out. Today I'm here with Cheat Codes producer and editor, Mr. Joe Haywood Arroyo.
Dumbass.
Cheat Codes keeper of the free things, Mr. Nick Dufresne Golish.
Quick win. Blow me over sometime.
Cheat Codes community manager, Mr. Chris Floyd Morris.
Hi.
Hey, welcome. In the house for the first time in a while. Today in the show, we'll crawl through a river of shit and come out clean to sort out the following bits. We'll talk about the importance of your imagination and why it makes playing games even better. And we're going to talk about Westworld and its undeniable connection to video games. We'll keep it spoiler-free, at least for Arroyo's sake. And we'll talk about what game devs actually get out of attending working conventions. For the lightning round, we'll throw some industrial detergent in the eyes of a potential rapist to discuss.
Jesus.
Obama wants us on Mars by 2030. And there's probably a Portal movie getting made whether we want it or not. Gentlemen, you guys were all at Dev Days this week. How was that? So we're going to talk about conventions, so it makes a certain amount of sense, right? Christopher.
It was good. It was like a little mini GDC. Very focused talks. No press. Friend EAs were in full effect, which is always nice to discuss things candidly with other game developers.
Okay.
I'm sad that you couldn't make it, but
I probably could have gone.
You were there in spirit.
I just was smart enough not to go.
Go ahead. I have mixed feelings about it. I mean, it seemed to be a well-produced production and everything. It's just I don't feel like I was the target audience, and neither was most of the people that we went with.
We weren't the target audience.
As professional developers as opposed to an indie,
I think it's more for
grassroots kind of thing.
indie devs.
It was definitely geared towards indie devs.
Okay.
But that's fine.
Yeah, right on.
Whatever. We're not really going to be able to share any more than that.
You got some sweet swag at least, right?
Yeah, they gave us
stuff.
Steam controllers, Link. You gave me your
Little
extra
dongles.
USB dongle. I appreciated that because my son lost my other one.
A dongle holder.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
It's something to hold my dongle.
Yep.
Appreciate that.
Dongle.
Good.
All right.
Why did we?
Hey, Chris, we're glad you're in town. It's been a while since we've seen you. Welcome back to the West Coast for a hot minute. You're leaving tomorrow, right? Going back to Raleigh.
It depends on whether this typhoon wipes out the airport.
That's probably a good point. Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully that doesn't happen and you can leave. I'm just kidding.
Wow.
kidding.
All right. I'll just go ahead and...
I'm glad. I'm glad you're here, man. Honestly, it's been a while since we've all got to sit in a room and do the show. All we're missing is Bernard, really. But all right. Very quickly, let's talk about what we're washing this episode down with. The idea of going to prison for crimes we did not commit leaves us pretty thirsty. We'd much rather drink beer and make a podcast about video games and stuff. With that appreciative perspective in mind, we're enjoying some 3 Grid IPAs from the folks at Schooner Exact. It's good, which is why we've featured it before, and we'll probably continue to do so in the future. In the meantime... Gentlemen, should we get to work? It's been 2 weeks since we did a show, so it's about, we're overdue.
I just wanted to mention, I think in the book he actually did commit the crime, but he still goes to prison, but it comes out because he...
Oh, in the short story?
That's because
Stephen King
it's Shawshank Redemption. It's not Shawshank, I was innocent.
Yeah.
Shawshank wrongful conviction, yeah. Maybe, you might be right, I don't know. In the movie, he did not.
In the movie, he didn't. Yeah.
Right.
They want you to feel for him quicker. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so yeah.
Anyway, number 1.
There you go, thank you. Heather Alexandra over Kotaku wrote a piece recently that focused on the importance of imagination as a facet of gaming. Specifically, what our minds are doing and making up as we play games and the importance of it amplifying and augmenting the gameplay experience. This is a pretty broad topic, but I think it's worth taking a stab at discussion-wise. Anytime a game has you thinking about it when you're not playing it, for instance, or when there's enough narrative and fiction around it, but just enough holes in it that you end up filling them in yourself. The author references Dear Esther as a prime candidate, also the NPC stories that you can make up for all the crowds of people and Hitman and stuff like that. So It probably goes without saying that the games should be good for this to happen, or at least good enough to trigger these sort of mental tangents. But I don't know. Let's see. Shake the tree here a little bit and see what falls out. This actually made me think less about games and more about movies, I think, to start.
I think what I want to say just about this is this definitely doesn't just apply to games. Like,
I agree.
When I read this, I was like, okay, this isn't unique to video games.
Yeah.
This definitely started with art. Pretty much, like,
sure.
Yeah.
I think that's probably accurate. I think maybe the angle that she was probably taking about it was a certain amount of interactivity, how it like might influence that, and therefore applies maybe a bit more specifically to games. But I totally agree with you in the sense that anytime that you kind of a well-constructed narrative or any piece of fiction that kind of lets you kind of play with it and think about like like when people talk about world building, for instance, like you can imagine what people off screen are doing or you know how they might exist in that world, and so your imagination is already at work and how that makes it feel even more rich of an experience. You know what I mean?
But does it really have to be good? Because how many times does a parent tell a story of bringing home a toy for their child and their child plays with the box that it came in?
Because they're using their imagination. I get, yeah, that's probably true. Yeah, maybe. That's a fair, valid point.
So why can't? Does that mean it's possible to just make a video game where there's really like nothing interesting about it, and then some people will just find a way to make it interesting?
Maybe. I think. All right. So let's amend the statement a little bit, and what I'll say is that's you can probably do it with anything, but I think the good ones get credit for it. How about that? And therefore, that's the one we end up talking about.
Plus, you're not selling it to little kids.
Sure.
You are selling games to get little kids, though.
Not necessarily. Not the kind of kids that play with the box when their parents bring a toy home for them. Not those kids.
Yeah.
I actually had a brief conversation about this very topic last night. So
the Dev Days after party.
Yep. It's actually kind of neat when a game kind of gives you these like narrative threads, but it doesn't fill in all the blanks. Mm-hmm. And so the game is like immerses you in everything else that's going on. And so if you're spending time thinking about those blanks when you're not actually playing the game, that's very powerful, because then you have people discussing, well, you know, what is such and such character's like backstory, or like what's the history of this area, and things like that, where they give you little breadcrumbs and they let you sort of kind of figure it out on your own.
Totally.
I think it's really powerful as a like a tool to get people really engaged with the game and with the experience, and even might inform how decisions get made when, like, you know, sequels or whatever come out. I think where it breaks down is when people try to like explicitly design for this.
This is going to be my next question. Actually,
too hard, and then they actually end up doing too much, and then they don't give you really like the opportunity to fill in the blanks. They actually shove most of the narrative like down your throat, and then it's kind of I think
rote at that point.
Breaks the organic process that would happen otherwise.
It's about you making sure you don't make the player feel like something is missing, but more that there's something to be filled in. Is like, it seems like there should be the same statement. They're synonymous, but they're not. Like if someone's like A, B, C's missing, and D, you can feel that. You know that they did it on purpose.
Well, it's like narrative is like archaeology, right? Like it always seems like there's something to be found as long as you're willing to dig deeper. Mm-hmm. And when all the stuff can kind of just be found on the surface, then there's no incentive to dig deeper.
It's funny you say it that way. Stephen King, in his nonfiction book On Writing, talks about when he writes a book, he doesn't like write an outline. He doesn't know how it's going to end when he starts writing a story. And he makes the analogy of like very specifically to archaeology, where it's like you're digging up this dinosaur. Like, you know it's there, but you don't know what it looks like until you're done digging it up. You know, that kind of thing. So.
That's a common storytelling technique anyway, is to focus mostly on a character profile development first, and then you think. You start to become connected to them as like if they were real, and then you would say, what would happen if I threw them into this scenario, and then you let it play kind of itself out for you, even though you created them. So it's kind of a cool way to use your imagination. Imagination.
Are you good? No? We're going to keep going.
I don't even know what's happening right
So
now.
what's the trick then? Like, do you let this happen organically, or how do you design for it without designing it specifically?
Well, for characters, not so much environment. I think environment kind of, that's maybe, I don't want to say easier, right? But that kind of like, it
allows for more.
Yeah, but with characters, I think it's more difficult because there's probably going to always be this desire by the designer to kind of fill in all those blanks. Like, I'm gonna, how they look, how they talk, what sort of, reactions they have to other characters, stuff like that. But there might be a certain point where if you figure out who the character is, like what their motivations are for doing things, and kind of why they are the way they are now, and you convey that information, then maybe you don't have the character constantly like be producing exposition, and that the player understands why the character is the way they are, and then it lets them have a little bit more free reign to sort of like,
create their own
like for the character to be like a vessel for the player, rather than just
which probably like augments that immersion or whatever,
right? Looking at somebody from the outside and just kind of controlling them, right? Like the silent protagonist, it has always been kind of a useful tool, but now that's not really like enough anymore. Like people want to know more, or like Gordon Freeman.
Yeah,
I think Mass Effect characters, they're kind of getting it right, where they're sort of in the middle of the sweet spot, and then a game like Dark Souls nails the environmental storytelling,
like
and
the
also
backstory, lore, and stuff. I agree.
The NPCs as well, where they just give you a little bit of morsels. So you're like, oh well, Solaire is like kind of this cool, cooperative, like this like one dude in this whole shit show that is maybe like not totally batshit insane, and so people come up with all these like reasons why that might be the case, and that's very interesting.
I feel like Dark Souls might strike a weird like polarizing kind of element of this, where it's like it's vague enough, and it's clearly rich enough, and it's clearly there for you to uncover, but it's vague enough for you to kind of let your imagination run wild to a certain extent too. But it's also, I think, for some and unrelated to gameplay, but like almost a turnoff though, because it's not necessarily kind of like laying it out for you. Like I think for some players, it might kind of turn around and be like, I have no fucking clue what's happening here, and it makes me not care about this. Do you know what I mean? So I think it could go either way as far as
Dark Souls is polarizing. Get out of here.
I'm just
get right out of town.
Again, not from a gameplay perspective, but yeah.
I think another good example is actually Overwatch, one that came out this year.
Sure. Okay.
I mean, there's no story really told except for like in the short cinemas that they have,
right?
And then a lot of what I'm saying, like the imagination that we're seeing from this, is the ridiculous amounts of fan fiction, like, or fan art that's come out around that game. Like people have created like couples in the game based on their gameplay mechanics, like
porn.
I was gonna say Brazzers already did their thing,
but I'm saying like there's two characters specifically, and this is an article that came out like just a few weeks ago, and how like the fan fiction of Overwatch is like this great monument to video games in a way, to imagination. And there's two characters. There's Farah and Mercy. Farah has the ability to jump up in the air and shoot rockets down on people. Mercy has the ability to fly up and then hover around towards another character, and they kind of just like, you see them flying through the sky together, one like boosting the other, and the other one's just shooting rockets down, and people have created this like,
that's enough for them to go off.
They're like, okay, now they're in love, and they're a couple, and we got to create all this terrific fan art around it. So
their celebrity power couple name is actually Pharmacy. How good is that?
God damn it.
No, so
what's everyone gonna do when they split in a year?
It'll be fine.
Well, yeah, season 2 means that like there's gonna have to be a breakup and then a reconciliation,
and they gotta figure out how to split up the adopted kids.
See, we're doing it right now. We're using our imagination. That's good. See?
I think Blizzard is really smart about this Overwatch stuff, where there's a rich community making like their own skins, their own storylines, their own whatever, and they're actually kind of like sourcing some of this stuff. So like you can see that.
Didn't they change one of the diva emotes like from like a meme or something that
Gremlin
came up?
Diva, with the Doritos and the Mountain Dew is like a canon thing put into the game now, which people like went nuts over.
People using their imaginations and influencing games. It's a good thing, guys. It's pretty. What else? I mean, all right. So we said Overwatch. We said Dark Souls a little bit. Like Joe, what do you think? What was the last time you felt like at least that there was? I don't know. You were having that itch about like you were thinking about the game. You were thinking about what like could be. You were using your imagination to
what?
Fill in whatever blanks that your mind needed to fill in. To, like while you either were playing the game or not.
I'm not going to actually say something specific, but I will bring up one more probably point that's worth discussing. Is there's this interesting problem with imagination kind of going by the wayside as newer games keep coming out. So for me, the last like real time I really felt that kind of imagination was was older games like PlayStation 1 and 2 before they started becoming uber realistic. And part of the advancements in technology also meant, that now we can really tell you the exact story we wanted to tell you. And I wonder whether or not you guys agree that the filling in the holes with your imagination in older games was kind of a byproduct of their limitations and not necessarily an intentional.
I think that's probably a good point. Yeah, for sure.
So
I actually agree 100%. I think the best example of that for me, when I really felt that sense of wonder and discovery, and I was filling in a lot of the blanks, was original EverQuest, where there's a lot of really good environmental storytelling, or just kind of like how these camps of mobs were like positioned by a designer. And there was a lot of like, I'm trekking through this really sort of dark, foreboding dungeon, and I'm like, well, what are these goblins up to all day when we're not in here like killing them and taking all their loot, or like
slowly patrolling from A to B
between these 2 points. Yeah,
but because they really nailed the environmental aspect of each zone, it really provided the opportunity to kind of feel immersed and to try to fill in those blanks. And that's something, as the artists and designers, they want to get more and more like granular detail. They kind of remove the need for your mind to do that, which almost I think makes the experience less compelling in some ways, for me personally anyway.
Sure, I think that's fair. Some people prefer that, I guess. They want to just have it spoon fed. Otherwise, other people want a bit more to chew on, so to speak. I think.
I still love the Uncharted series.
Sure,
my favorite games,
but there's not a lot. There's not a lot there that's open to interpretation.
You don't wonder what Drake does on his free time, I guess, or something.
Yeah,
I mean,
he dives for treasure with the dude on the boat.
Well, what about?
I mean, they've told so much of his story already.
It's not using your active imagination while you play. Like, you never hit a moment where you're like, I wonder what fill in the blank. I mean, everything is right there. I mean, even when you ever have a moment to think, dialogue is.
It's specifically designed to do that.
Snap you out.
Yeah, no, I
stop
agree.
Thinking. Like,
it's hard. I don't necessarily agree that it's gone to the wayside. I think that
no, it hasn't. I just think that there are. It's more, not to reuse the word polarizing, but I think there's experiences that are very much tailored to a certain degree and don't give it any room for that. But there are still definite examples.
I just think that we're more saturated with examples that, like you're saying, that don't allow for the imagination. I think there are plenty out there, as many or more than before, and it's a lot of our nostalgia that is saying that. But I agree with you; those games like really promoted our imagination or thoughts about these characters that we're playing. I think that's still there. I thought maybe we got away from it a little bit in the 2000s, but now we're back with the indie market and everything. Like, there's so much more.
That's true.
Very true.
Yeah, that's a really good call.
I had a quick question for Nick before we move on about Eve. Do you think that Eve sort of kind of delivers on this, like, filling in the blanks? Because, I mean, when I played it, it was like everything was unknown, right? So everything was my mind trying to figure out what the hell was like through that next wormhole.
I suppose not really. Okay. It's not. I mean, it's a persistent world. It's not something that I'm making up stories. Like, I'm reading about what other people are doing in the game.
The story makes itself.
The story makes itself with the players, and that is that their imagination. I guess they're doing whatever they can think of in the game or something. But when I can understand, like, coming from like a new player's experience, you don't understand the game because you've only been exposed to it for like a year or something, and you're exposed to it a year and you still don't know how to fucking play the entire game.
What a short time period.
You're like, I wonder what people are doing out in like 0-0, which is like an unsafe spot, like place of space where like the large empires play with each other, and they build up their armies. They build these like awesome structures. You don't even know how any of that stuff works because you're new to the game. You're like hanging out in high sec and you hear these stories about these things, and then your imagination takes over a little bit, I guess. So
it's
maybe.
I think that's a byproduct of sandbox games. Is it's supposed to be that you go in there and play, and then whatever happens.
Yeah,
it's kind of a different breed, I guess.
Yeah, certainly. Well, people like have comic strip and books about history about stuff that's happened. You know what I mean? And Eve, not what they think could happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, although there's probably plenty of that.
No, there's history books and comics about Eve.
But that's what I'm saying.
Stuff exists. Like, yeah.
No, but like, but all those stories and stuff are not just made up. But they're based on things that have actually happened in the game.
A lot of them. I knew a guy. He's actually kind of famous for it. His name was Armageddon PSA. And he's one of the first persons I played the game with, and he released fictional comics about the game. About like cool. Ships waiting at gates for other people to come through. And they're like, one came through and it was called a tempest. And they're like, what do we do? It's like, if you don't move, it can't see you. So it's just like little.
It's the Predator.
Yeah, it's just little. It's like a T-Rex or something.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Number 2.
All right, here we go. So we're going to talk about Westworld. It's not overdue, but I feel like it's kind of everywhere at the moment. It's worth addressing. Arroyo here is going to get a little cranky about it because he hasn't seen it yet, but we'll see if we can keep it spoiler-free. All right? We're going to try really hard. I promise. Okay? If anything, maybe we'll make you more interested to maybe actually just fucking pay for HBO and watch it.
I binge watched, okay? I'm waiting for the fucking finish so that I can watch the whole thing in one
Then get the free month and just bang it out.
Now you know my strategy. I'm already sold on it, okay?
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, at this point, there's only 2 episodes out. The only spoilers you're going to get are the premise of the show.
Yeah,
like,
it's a setup, essentially, not what's going to happen.
Yeah,
so. Video games play a huge part in the concept and play of the show. I don't think there's any argument there. The guests are players, the hosts are NPCs.
I would argue.
I mean, really real-looking and real acting NPCs. Imagine GTA 5 in real life, or more appropriately, probably Red Dead Redemption. There's some serious morality questions here, questions about our own existence, all sorts of fucking interesting things. I think the most interesting, and I guess more specific thing that I can talk to this directly is very much the idea that when these people, it's a theme park, right? And they show up and they're cowboys and it's fun, and there are straight up amazing and very human like robots walking around that populate the world, and the people that visit the theme park interact with these robots. Okay, is that too much? Am I spoiling it yet?
You're fine.
Okay, I'm just checking. But there are scenes of like absolute like brutal shit in this show where it's like, because you can like the idea and the purpose of this place is to let people do whatever they want within the confines of this theme park,
right?
Which means like
resets again every day.
Yeah, there's a Groundhog Day element to it. Yeah, for sure. So, but you're sitting there watching them. There's these actors that you know are like actually real people or whatever, but then like they're getting murdered like every day. You know, just like shot in the face, like whatever, no big deal. And so, but you start thinking about this thing, and what kind of turned the wheels for me a little bit on this was like, I understand why moms and dads across the world got upset about, you know, Wolfenstein or Doom or even Grand Theft Auto, because it's like, you know, my kids in the simulation, like killing and, you know, banging hookers and then killing them to get their money back and shit like that. Like all that stuff. Like what happens when it gets to the point of like real life? And this is as close probably as we're, you know, have been exposed to, at least from a fictional standpoint. Right. So there's a scene in one of the episodes where a guy, like, you know, gets pissed off at one of the hosts while he's eating his dinner, and he's like, I don't know if this guy's for real or not, but I'm just going to pull my gun out and shoot him. You know what I mean? It's fine. Because you can't kill, in the show, you cannot kill real people. You can only kill robots.
Yeah, I imagine that would be a rule.
Right. You go but it's like, so let's find out,
like
right?
Everything, no, nothing's off limits.
But like, I mean, they look, they talk, they act very much like real people. So like, at what point does the morality question get really weird? And I think that's where the correlation between video games comes in. You know what I mean?
That's an example of somebody not being moral but getting lucky that they didn't happen to shoot a real person.
But he's acting within the confines and the encouragement of what to do within this theme park is to do whatever you want. You know what I mean? And that's kind of how like GTA or Red Dead Redemption works. Like,
are you asking us where the line is? Like, I'm asking, why are we okay with video games, but this makes us feel like question our morality?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, one of the points I think was brought up, like, would you be okay with your wife fucking a robot? And like understanding that it's not real, or would you want it to be more real, or would
fucking making real love?
That's still real. So
yeah, there's like full on like actual
really
penetration happening.
Yeah, it's a real thing.
No, I get that, and that's one of the questions they ask. Like, is this okay? Like to the point where well,
that's not to be totally vulgar, but I think like. Well, what's the difference between that and like a dildo? It's just attached to a bigger robot.
I know. This is where I get it. There's definitely a line, and I couldn't tell you where it is.
Right. So, but this is why it's interesting to me. Like, you know what I mean? Kind of trying to sort this out.
Don't make me actually answer this question. Please, God. For morality's sake.
I can see why video games are brought up a lot with this version of Westworld, but like I think it needs to be made clear that this story existed like long before this. Like,
oh yeah, early 70s.
Yeah, Michael Crichton wrote this. A movie came out about it, and it wasn't about video games. It was about those moral questions, though, which was kind of cool. So like the whole RPG thing hadn't really been invented yet, because I mean this is pre Dungeons and Dragons age almost.
About the same time.
Almost, yeah.
So I think
go ahead.
I think that actually will we'll probably like deal with this
in reality
within our lifetime, but also probably like much sooner than that. When Tim Sweeney did his keynote at the Steam Dev Days, some of the predictions that he was making was like a full-on metaverse, like Snow Crash style, like Jack In, and then there's a whole different world with like realistic avatars and stuff, and crime and all the other sort of things that that come along with like a community of people coming together, but without like real world consequences.
Right.
So where do you draw the line? Is it okay to kill all these people in a VR space if there's no consequence? Or
we already proved, or the one guy already proved that it's not okay to like virtual reality grope another woman at like a convention.
Right. So
it's actually true. Yeah, I remember that we talked about that on the show.
We did. That's a really good point.
It's how sick people felt being forced to do this social experiment.
Yeah. So we're gonna run into this like very soon, and then there will be, I think, some amount of people who you play video games with them all the time who are all about griefing and trolling the shit out of people. And I think in a virtual space that's realistic, it's going to be like twice as bad, maybe.
It's going to be the wild west.
Like, I hate to be so I hate to be so like negative about it, but my feeling is that there will be a larger percentage of people that wouldn't do it in real life because of the consequences, that will do it in a virtual space because they know they can get away with it. And like that's kind of unfortunate.
Well, that's already how it works. I mean, trolling, in a way.
Yeah. Currently in the current space.
But once it's more like realistic and we're all sort of like plugged into this
and not anonymous,
accurate representation of some like space, then I kind of wonder how that's going to go down if we're going to have to have like virtual police.
I'm pretty sure that consequences can still happen. They just become a product of the constraints that you're in. Just like every single thing that we have as a society isn't even tangible. Everything down to us claiming that we're a part of a country. That's not even a tangible concept. That's not even a real thing. There's no such thing as a border. There's no. Yeah. It's completely in our heads. Everything, but we've somehow collectively agreed that it is. So that's no different than when we get into the VR space. We're going to create these boundaries, these rules, these ramifications for doing things. So there will be consequences. They're not going to be the human consequences. They're going to be the kind that if we have good designers behind like products like this.
Wait, why are you pointing at me? I'm
exactly.
Because I'm saying get better before this happened. No, I'm kidding. Right. You asked for it.
Get good, bro.
No, but I mean the designers behind these systems are going to have to create the same kind of like economic incentives, whether good or bad, that incentivize good behavior over being a shitty ass human being, which is why Westworld is so interesting, because they're literally like, no, fuck that, you come and pay us and you can do whatever the hell you want. That's not the kind of metaverse we want to create.
Yeah, but it's not real, but we're gonna make it feel real fucking real.
Yeah, you got to consider that these are robots. Like, is there actually any moral ground at hurting these robots because they don't understand pain?
Do you guys ever burn like army men with a magnifying glass? It's just playing with a toy, right? It's destroying a toy.
I know, but
I never destroyed my
pivoted
toys.
to the
Me neither, I'm
metaverse,
just saying.
just so you know. So I was not relating the two.
No. I get what you're saying. I'm just saying, like,
I mean, everyone on the other side is a real person, so
Sure.
you need consequences for what you do to them.
That's right. No, I think it's a distinction worth making for sure.
I was just bringing it back to the fact that the Westworld is very much about robots instead of doing stuff to other humans. It's about doing things to human-like, I guess, which I don't know if that's the same thing.
Human-like.
Yeah.
Even that sounds like a dangerous term.
Yeah, well, it is, right? Because
you're already assuming that there's some sort of human connection there.
Well, to me, there is.
I think if you build something in your own image, right, like and with the same emotions and the same, even if it's based on a program or an algorithm, yes, I agree with you.
Yeah, but I mean, if you make that argument, you could say like God made us in our own image and stuff, and He still throws fucking like thunderstorms and tornadoes at us. He's still fucking toying with us and playing with us like we're playing with these guys. Like,
we all live in a simulation, you guys.
Probably.
We all live in a simulation.
Right, according to Elon Musk, right?
Just according to a lot of people.
Yeah, I think that's it's widely
more
shared.
Likely that we're in a simulation than not. Just based on probability, I guess.
Here we go.
How many times?
Here we go.
I don't know how many times I have to say this, but we have to remember, right, that consciousness is something that I cannot prove that any one of you have. I literally cannot believe that any of you are actually conscious. I can only base that off of my own model of myself and why I think I have consciousness.
How do you know that you're conscious?
Because of that's the definition of consciousness, is to be
aware.
Based on what? Like Rene Descartes, I think therefore I am, like that kind of thing?
Yeah.
No, it's exactly
otherwise
that
wouldn't be defined that way. So, but
it's not a definition, it's just a quote.
The word consciousness
Here we go.
can be defined by that. Whether or not we're living in a simulation is a different story, but I do have consciousness because I do.
You live and you breathe.
Yeah, but I can, because of that fact, I can never prove that any one of you do. So that's why there's like this big social experiment related to, if a robot can make itself believe, the only reason I can believe you have consciousness is the model that I have built about you.
Okay.
In my own head. So if you're a robot that can pretend like you feel pain even if you actually don't, and bleed when you get hit on the head with something,
then stop it, dude.
Then exactly. then it's my model of you that gets fucked up. So therefore, I think that's where the morality actually does come in.
Right, because if you went into Westworld and no one told you that any of these people were robots, and then you're still fucking with people, then that's like, that just makes you like a shitty human being, right? Because you don't know whether it has consciousness or not based on whether it could be a robot.
I want to, before we move on to the,
I want to know what people would do.
That's exactly where I'm going. Like, if you got your free ticket to Westworld, right, for whatever, like the premium fucking package or whatever, how do you play it? Do you be yourself?
Can I only play once?
You play once.
Okay.
That's the rule. That's the constraint here.
See, that always sucks. But
I genuinely feel like probably wouldn't participate in it at all.
Really?
And if I did, for the sake of this argument, like I had to, I don't think I could do anything but...
I'm more curious about why you wouldn't.
Good guy.
Why wouldn't you do it?
Because I'd be... It depends. If it's really this real, and where you have to sit here and play around with whether or not you believe in the consciousness of the other individuals in there, whether you're told that or not, then the question becomes, do I believe the creators? And then I can't justify that feeling, like being in there and being like, in order for me to go in here and start fucking killing everybody, I have to trust that the people who made this world don't have other intentions, and I just don't think I can do that. Like, I don't think I can do that.
Are you afraid about what you might learn about yourself?
No, I'm afraid that I might kill a real human being and not realize it.
You can't kill real humans.
You don't know that.
You do.
Someone made that experience for you, and you don't really know what it is. It's the whole, like...
It is true. Like, you don't know exactly what's going to happen.
You can't know unless you made it yourself. Just like I don't know you have consciousness, Joe. In fact, I'm starting to believe I don't.
Okay.
You're making an assumption based on what somebody has told you, right? So you're just accepting it at face value.
Yeah, you read a bro. Sure. Okay. Yeah. What about you, Morris?
I can't.
How would you play it if you went?
I would definitely
go the Paragon route. Play it straight.
I wouldn't go like the evil route, that's for sure. Yeah. But I would maybe be like more of a desperado, I guess, going from town to town, like vigilante, like righting wrongs, like Magnificent Seven style or something.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that'd be fun.
Play it, but you would literally like play like a game then. Yeah,
but I mean, I would be like a vigilante, like out, like trying to help people.
Right,
find
you're not
justice.
trying to just like shoot and fuck people for the sake of doing it. You're just like you're out there to like actually cause some sort of create some sort of difference for the duration of your stay or of your playthrough, effectively.
Yeah, sure. Okay, that would be fun.
Okay, more. All right, Nick,
how's it going?
Hi.
I've already feel like I've answered this question for myself before. I can think very specifically back to when I first played Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, the first one.
Sure.
And I was like, okay, this is like one of the first ones that I feel like I actually making a difference when I'm choosing things, I guess. I was like, I'm just going to play this as if I were myself. Like, I want to actually... For me, role-playing is not me pretending to be someone else in this world. For me, it's me pretending to be in this world. Like, as myself.
How would I if in that situation?
How would I be a Jedi? Like, how would I like save the galaxy?
I think that's
like not who could I be to save the galaxy?
That's
it's like I'm not
the right answer.
I don't know. I just don't feel like I want to be somebody else. I want to be myself in this world. Like,
Right. Yeah, I think.
we all just want to be ourselves.
No, I agree.
So cute. I agree 100%.
but
it's good.
because I'm within the confines of being like a Jedi, I'll go out and be a Jedi,
Do the
and
things that a
I'll
Jedi
do the
would
things a Jedi will do, as if I were myself as a Jedi. I guess.
think
So,
that's-
like, it's
You're
kinda-
changing the simulation parameters, but not yourself in it.
Yeah, like I
if-
try to make the decision that I want to make.
If you could be a Jedi, but in like real life, then you would still be the same. You would just utilize your Jedi powers for whatever your
For
motivations are.
retrieving ice cream from the freezer.
Well, the difference is like
Blocks of cheese.
the difference is like if I were Jedi in the real world, there would be nobody to recruit me to go like save the galaxy or something.
Right, you
necessarily.
literally
Like,
be Superman at that point. But
Yeah,
you'd be
so-
like, who is this freak? You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And like,
I don't know. It just I don't know. I feel like that's a good answer.
fair enough.
All right,
No, I
answer.
think
we got to move on, but you obviously need to answer.
he stole my answer. My answer is Nick's answer. You play it the way you think you would behave as yourself in that world. You know what I mean?
It seems weird to me that none of us came forward. I mean,
Well,
are we
no.
just not admitting what we
Not
really
on my
do? Is
second
that-
playthrough of Knights of the Republic. I was a bad guy.
I can't
Okay,
promise
all
you. I can't
so
promise
if you
you.
did it twice, then you'd start.
Right. If I went back a second time, I'm like, all right, let me a second playthrough, like you said, do it different. You know what I mean? Like go straight, like the genocide playthrough or whatever. You know what I mean? Like
I never can bring myself to play full evil, even
Me
when
either.
I play a game
Me
like
either.
Fallout or Mass Effect, and I want to go Renegade. I go more like the
Like
kind of
vigilante,
like,
like you said.
chaotic,
Neutral or something?
neutral
Yeah,
or
yeah,
something
yeah.
where it's like I never go out of my way to fuck people over, but I also like don't take any shit. But it's like
right. It's like, oh
yeah.
what the fuck you say? Like,
It's do everything that benefits you,
I kind
but
of
don't go out of your way to do that.
Yeah, don't go out of your
murder
way
people.
to do
Yeah.
do any harm. But like, if someone is like coming at you, you're not gonna like go easy on them.
There was actually. Sorry, go ahead.
I kind of want to attribute that to like just bad storytelling or bad choices that they give you in those games. One of my problems I always had with those games was like it was always like a black and white decision, and there's no real middle ground unless you didn't do anything.
Right. There's no gray area. Like
And
real life.
like
Yeah.
what I wanted, like, and especially when I was thinking about these games, like the Path to the Dark Side is not just me making like bad decisions or something. It's like me thinking I'm making a good decision, getting emotional about it, and falling to the dark side or something.
Right,
So I
right.
just always felt like it was always a letdown to do the bad guy stuff.
When we were-
Completely bad guy.
Yeah, when I was putting the episode together, it was funny, like because that I didn't think about it then. What I'm thinking about now is that article about the GTA 5 players that play as cops, but they play like hardcore cops.
that was awesome
And
article.
but it's like it's almost a total opposite. Instead of going on just murdering everybody, they're actually trying to like be a cop in that world. It's the whole role playing aspect. Anyway.
Number 3.
All right. Everyone in the games business ends up at a convention eventually, right? Gen Con, Gamescom, PAX, E3, GDC, Dev Days. How topical. You name it. But what's the point? Other than backdoor dealings with publishers or pimping your wares to the press or your devoted following for that matter, what do devs actually get out of it? This is based on an article from Vice. Is it about public feedback? Is it about testing the waters? How crazy is it actually behind the scenes? Is everything just marketing? Why go to cons, you guys? And I actually thought very fondly or whatever about you, Morris, because anybody I know, you go to more conventions than anybody, like TGS, BlizzCon, Sakura, or whatever the fuck, you know what I mean? Like you do all that anime
all of
shit,
the
like
cons.
yeah, all of the cons,
all that
right?
weeb shit.
Now that we're all developers, we've spent the past couple of years kind of like running in and out of PAX as students. And we've started going to cons as professionals now, specifically within like the video game realm. But what do we feel like we get out of it, guys? Like I'm curious. Like, is there a reason? Is it worth it? Is it?
We want to go like around the horn on this one then.
I am. Yes.
You can take it.
Yeah, start it.
All right. Well, my own personal experience is that number one, there's a lot that you can learn from other people and from, both going to talks and just like meeting people afterwards. The networking probably can't be understated or overstated because you never know who you're going to meet and what sort of connection you're going to have and where that might take you down the line. I think it's also important if you really want to work in this industry that you are kind of steeping yourself in all of that culture and you're understanding like what's going on, like what people are interested in, what people are working on.
Sure.
Versus, being sort of like the silent developer that, never surfaces from their office, which is totally fine too. But now more than ever, as like as indie is much more of a thing than it's ever been. it's important to like go out and like have some visibility and make some real connections and
exposure,
make some even like business deals that you didn't anticipate was going to be the end result of you just like having a beer with some random dude or showing up and like you run into some dev that you really respect and then all of a sudden you're like feel inspired to go back and do something interesting because of that interaction. I think there's all of these weird, very difficult to quantify things that you get out from conventions that are very valuable that you don't really think about until you actually go and kind of just like exist at one.
Okay. How did you guys feel about? I mean, I know you guys were like super hyped on Dev Days this past week, but you've been to a handful of other conventions. Nick, Joe, like
it's hard.
You feel like you get something out of it? Is it a worthwhile endeavor?
It's hard to give a perspective because I feel like the article is written from the perspective of the people who are presenting at these conventions as opposed to attending them.
Sure.
And I've presented at it as a student for DigiPen, and I feel like I got a lot of that because I got people to come play my game, and it was like exposure. But I was also like a freshman doing this, and it was very exciting for me. It was my first time at this kind of convention, but for me to go to
E3 as an attendee, for instance.
As an attendee, I don't feel like I get as much out of it. I think the biggest benefit is the hype around the entire culture. Like, I'm not thinking for myself or like for like a specific company or game or a title. I'm just thinking like the really cool thing about these conventions is how much it celebrates like gaming culture.
Fair enough.
That's what
cool.
I get out of it.
No, I like it. Royal?
I have more of a social issue with the whole thing, and it's more personal. Just like I'm kind of an introvert masquerading around as an extrovert, unfortunately, and so I'm not actually an extrovert, which makes me look like an asshole because I don't talk to other people. It's not because I am; it's because I'm actually like shitty fucking nervous about saying hi to someone I've never met. Like my main. And it's not a celebrity thing. It's literally like this person I've never met at the grocery store in front of me who I clearly have something to say to, but still don't because I feel like I'm derailing their day. Like,
sure,
like,
absolutely.
You didn't plan to talk to me. You don't know. So, so carry that into a convention, and it's basically like a shitstorm of feeling bad about yourself for not saying hi to 50 people and then going home and not getting anything out of it. So maybe I'm revealing too much about myself right now. But that convention's basically just like exacerbate my anxiety and don't make me feel any better about being a part of it.
All right. Is that's as an attendee or is that as a presenter?
As an attendee. As a presenter, I'd be in my element. I'd stand up there and I'd be totally confident.
Okay.
Because I'm not really like sitting down with one person I've never met and saying hi. It's about
you're doing a job.
It's the introduction that I literally find like fucking impossible for me. Like I can't just go up to a stranger and find an entry point. And there are certain people that I completely envy, Chris Morris, who can do that, and I can't fucking do that.
Yeah. See, that's I think that's a misconception, right? Because I'm the exact same way that you are in that when I'm at a convention, right? Like I have to try to be an extrovert, and it consumes a lot of like energy, right? I don't necessarily go there feeling recharged at the end of the day. I go there and I feel exhausted. And I always have the anxiety of the new social interaction, which is why I've been fortunate enough to make friends with people who are definitely extroverts and have like, they're good at introducing people and they have large networks. So that always makes it easier for me to meet new people.
Well, that's how I describe you.
Yeah, you're
our community manager for a reason, dude.
So
like, good thing Chris Morris is here. Yeah, because otherwise I wouldn't talk to
I don't want to email these people that we want to have on the show.
It's really funny because I think since I've been going to conventions for so long, that the most difficult part of the hurdle I've kind of overcome. But certainly the first couple of years that I was going to conventions, I was a wreck. Even still, like at Steam Dev Days, I ran into a couple devs that I'd never ever met before, but like really respect their work, and I didn't know anyone that knew them, so I was like,
am I gonna do this right now?
Shit. All right, I'm gonna go up and I'm just gonna bite the bullet. I'm gonna say hi to this guy because otherwise I may never get to. And if I totally botch the social interaction, then hopefully I never see him again. But
I'm gonna feel real weird playing these games later on.
If I don't botch it, right, and we have something cool to talk about, then awesome. It's always tough, right? Because someone who's done good work that you respect, you're always like, I don't know what sort of value I have to offer other than being like, hey, like, thanks for making your video game. And then, like, move on before it gets too awkward.
Yeah, I had that moment at E3 this year, actually, when I met Tim Schafer for a hot minute. We snapped that picture real quick. But I because he was walking, we were walking over to one of the talks or something, and you know, we'd all had a couple.
Dude,
drinks
I
at that
basically
point.
shoved you into him. I was like, no, I don't want to. No, I don't want to.
Yeah, and I was just like, and I literally, and he, like, so we have our arms around each other, and you guys were taking the picture, and I was like, thanks for the video game.
So he's an example of someone you hope you never see again.
A little bit, yeah, for sure. I mean, but at the same time, like, you know, it was nice. You know, you meet, you know, one of your heroes or something. I don't always recommend it because how many times do you meet somebody that you truly respect and they just turn out to be like a fucking dick? You know what I mean? But it happens.
I mean, it
fear
happens.
that, but
No, you should not. You should try and go out there.
I think it still happen, but it's, yeah, you know, whatever.
For the record, Tim Schafer was not a dick. He was
Yeah.
he was very
funny.
nice. He was very polite.
I've had a bunch of awkward social interactions with Tim Schafer, but I think he never remembers. So it's good because every time I run into him, it's like a total, like, fresh, like, hey, Tim Schafer, how's it going?
Like, we've met like 8 times, but no big deal.
And it was kind of the same with Cliff, right? Where it was like, okay, cool. So, like, I had some, like, awkward botched interactions when I first started going to GDC, where I'm like just this nervous kid. I don't know what the fuck's going on. But then the more you talk to people, right, the easier it gets because then you have more common threads.
It was, yeah, to that point specifically about Cliff, actually, like, when you introduced me to him at PAX at the Lawbreakers offsite booth.
When you pooped your pants?
I pooped my pants a little bit, but at the same time, I was kind of like when he was on the show, it was kind of like, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, no big deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you already had, like, a rapport.
To a certain extent, like, don't get me wrong, I was still nervous about certain of it, like, 'cause it's like a full hour of it, and he's a strong personality, you know what I mean? And like, my concerns were more about like making a show go smoothly and hoping that there wasn't going to be any just bullshit or like conflict, you know what I mean? And not to say that he would have caused that, but like, that was where my concern was. It wasn't about like, I'm not worried about having a conversation with Cliff for an hour. You know what I mean?
For me, it's strictly the barrier of entry. This is why I say, like,
I think you're right. I think that's a very good point. Yeah.
This is exactly why I say, like, I'm an introvert masking around as an extrovert, because people who know me and see me talk to other people, once you're past the opening gate of like conversation has started. So I love people who are extroverts because they start a conversation with me and it's easy because I'm fine. Like, I have no problem talking to people. I just have every problem with starting a conversation with someone.
Fair enough.
And so I need to get to the point where I just like throw a rock at someone's head and they're like, ow, and I'm like, oh, hey, I don't even know who that guy was who just threw a rock at you, but my name's Joe.
That's true. And it's weird too because, like, I at least being in this industry, like, anybody that's made a good game, like, I automatically kind of treat like a celebrity to a certain extent. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, like, we work for Marcus, obviously, who made, you know, was director on 3 and Reach and all that stuff, and even Mike, you know what I mean, our CTO, who like worked on SOCOM and everything else, like, he made all these awesome games, and I'm just kind of like, yeah, that's cool. You know what I mean? The day I met him, he fucking ended up in our Patreon video. So, you know what I mean? Like,
well, like, so I met Tynan, the guy who made RimWorld at Steam Dev Days, which is a game that I've been like obsessed with lately. And I was like,
you and Nick both.
Fuck, I'm so like nervous about this, but I really just want to be like, hey, dude,
people
like,
are just people, man.
Love the game.
Yeah,
but I don't like being the one driving the conversation either. It's so like Arroyo. If someone has like all these like things that they want to like ask me, it's so easy, right? Just like ask me about video games until the fucking cows come home, and like that's a super easy conversation for me to have. If I have to break the ice and then I have to try to keep a conversation going and not let it go like get awkward, like that's really fucking hard. But I think the kind of moral of the story, at least for me, is if you're in the industry, you should try to go to as many damn conventions as you can and make friends, like genuine friends with people who are like willing to kind of do a lot of the introduction work for you, and that will make it like infinitely easier to like to just meet
and then start
people.
A podcast and then have them all come on.
Just like anything else, right? It's a skill that you just have to practice, and it's just one of those skills,
an exercise for sure,
where failing at it feels way shittier than failing at most other things,
because you're completely convinced that person is all that other person is thinking about is how fucking dumb and awkward you are.
It's totally
you need to do this, but you're going to sound like a dumbass if you fail.
Yeah. I mean, just accept that like the first a few times that you fail at it, it's gonna suck.
Sure.
But then
I'm sorry,
totally.
Dumas when you fail.
Dumas.
Duma. Good callback.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah, I think the number one takeaway before we move on is just that if all of us can sit here and talk about how we're on a podcast, for crying out loud, and we talk about how terrible we are at talking to people. Okay, so I think that
Nobody's actively listening though right now, which makes it easier. So I'm saying we're recording it. Nobody's actively listening it right now.
Oh, because we're not in front of a live audience? No.
Yeah.
Okay, not my
think
point.
about that,
Not my
yeah.
point.
I don't-
Because I would do this in front of a live audience. I'm actually quite a good presenter, and I have no problem doing that.
Okay.
What I'm talking about is it's just important to remember that all of the people that you may or may not look up to, or that you think are socially active and really good at talking to people, like, may have the exact same reservations. Like, all four of us get fucking nervous.
Sure.
Everybody does. Like, you'd be surprised at the people that you respect that think are social that might not be. So what's an awkward encounter to you to just, like, you know, chip off is like, oh, this is just another
That time that
shitty...
Trump grabbed my pussy.
How many
Oh my god.
how many times do you think the person you're talking to has done that with X number of people and have the same
No,
thing,
100%.
right?
That's accurate.
So you just kind of have to accept it as, like, it happens.
Yeah.
People are awkward.
No, it's let's just assume that everybody's awkward, right? You just got to break down the barrier and get comfortable. It's fine.
Everyone has had an awkward conversation with a game developer that they like at least once, probably.
I have awkward conversations with game developers every day. All right. Is it time for the lightning round?
Yep.
Still no sound effects. One day we'll get that. Crack out. Here's how it works. We're going to take two quick topics and give each member of the panel a minute to chime in uninterrupted for the most part. At the end of each minute, we will award the panelists a quantity of some type of points based on 0 things in particular. Our distinguished guest,
Which is going to be
we're
Chris
going to assume
Morris.
it's Chris Morris today, will be in charge of awarding me points for my respective minutes. All right?
That's a lot of responsibility. This is going to be really
Yeah,
awkward.
we put this on every guest that comes on the show with, like, no warning, and they do fine. I'm sure you'll do great. You've been on the show before.
You should take the first minute on this one too.
All right. Fine. Set the standard. Here we go. For topic the first or fourth, depending on how you're keeping track, Obama is stressing to scientists, NASA, privatized space companies, and public alike that we should strive to land on and return from Mars by 2030. He tacitly invoked Kennedy, who famously implored and inspired us to reach the moon by 1970, and now we're reaching a bit further out. Not to be outdone by the likes of Elon Musk, Barrio wants us to reach as far as we can and has long been a proponent and supporter of the United States space program. So, is this realistic? Will we beat the deadline like we did with the moon? Is he just jumping on the Mars bandwagon? Is he just throwing out wild claims because he's, going to be unemployed in like a couple months? I'm curious. All right, so I'll take the first minute then. I think this is great. We need world leaders in general to keep pushing us. It's cool when people like, titans of industry like Elon Musk are making these grand plans and actually, putting their money where their mouth is, so to speak, to make them happen. But it's even better when we have people that, at least on a government level or some sort of spiritual level or whatever, coming around and being like, this needs to happen, not necessarily as a practical measure of like our prowess as a human race, but let's just see if we can make it happen. You know what I mean? Like it's the next logical step. Like human race is getting bigger. We've clearly kind of like gone as far as we're gonna go population wise on the planet Earth. The planet Earth, I don't care what you believe, is obviously kind of telling us maybe it's time to chill the fuck out. So let's go find another planet to fuck up. You know what I mean? I think it's cool that the last couple months of any presidency is awesome because they just get to do whatever the fuck they want. This is a good way to spend that time, is what I'm saying. So thanks. Hashtag thanks, Obama.
I'm going to award you 17 bags of your own shit. And
Yes. Keep going.
12 Yukon Gold potatoes.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that because I really like Yukon Golds, they're delicious. You have plenty of delicious potatoes to eat when you finally arrive on Mars.
Poop potatoes.
I will try not to have an airlock that malfunctions and destroys my Mars crop of potatoes.
Spoilers much.
The only malfunctioning airlock is going to be down south on a diet consisting
of just
exclusively of Yukon potatoes.
Potatoes.
It's the most Irish fucking thing ever.
Potatoes.
Have you not seen The Martian, Joe?
Yes, I've seen it.
All right, good.
That's why I made the potatoes joke.
Oh, I thought he made the potatoes joke, but you said spoilers.
No,
so
he said it, so I had
He
to
repeated
emphasize
it
it because
I
I
want to
like
make sure
it.
you heard it.
I heard it.
Potatoes.
All right,
We might have a title for the episode, actually.
next minute.
Mr. Golish,
Hey.
talk to me about going to Mars by 2030. Too ambitious?
No, I think it's cool. It's I think a little sooner than Star Trek predicted, but not by much. So I'm not sure we're going to make it quite there in time, but I mean, by then I think we're supposed to be in like a World War III or something. Everyone's supposed to be dead anyway, so it doesn't matter. But and then the Borg come back and try to assimilate Earth in the past.
Oh my god.
And that's when we invented warp drive. So no, then we did go to Mars before then because we invented warp drive after that. Because in Voyager, a guy that went to Mars got lost in this anomaly that they found in the Delta Quadrant when Voyager was trying to come back home. And that's why we should go to Mars.
I really want to.
Can we... I want to award you the full season of Deep Space Nine Star Trek, but with Obama as the captain of Deep Space Nine and not the other guy.
Cisco?
Cisco, yeah.
You know what prize I want to give you? The Enterprise.
God damn it.
I really want a Star Trek with Obama as a captain.
He said it was his favorite show. He was the guest editor in Wired for the past week or whatever.
That's why I'm saying it.
He said it was his favorite show as a kid.
Did he give a specific one? Like Next Generation?
Original
probably?
series. The original series, yeah.
I made Joe watch that the other day, and we watched the first episode. There was like no real... There's a pilot that I made him skip because it wasn't the same captain. But they seem to like it.
Okay.
It was actually pretty good when
It actually
we watched it. Yeah,
still holds up. The original
I imagine that's true.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anyway.
All right. Roy, you're next.
Rose next, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'd like to
Hi.
guess go last, I thought.
Yeah. I think he's bandwagoning. I'm not going to go off on a Star Trek rant.
Nice.
You can't follow that minute anyway.
I can't fucking follow it. I think it's weird. Like, we had our all our government funding got cut with NASA, and I was talking about this today. Like, I was genuinely in a fear that in my lifetime we weren't really going to see what we should be seeing when it comes to space travel until enter SpaceX. But this was prior to that. So now you've got these private companies finally doing it. It's like, fuck yes, it's awesome. And I feel like Obama's like, I'm on my way out. I'm just going to quickly like stretch over and be like, space travel. I'm out of here just so that I can feel slightly responsible for it. But really, like, the government has done dick about it in the last decade. So I kind of think it's bullshit, but that's fine. It's just like a last ploy to like get a hand in the cookie jar, I suppose.
I'm going to award you the Chappelle Show skit where Chappelle is the black president talking about how he's just cool with aliens and like going to Mars and shit.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I want
skepticism.
I want a second minute.
No.
Well,
Wrong.
maybe we'll do an epilogue.
I was just hoping.
Just hang on to it.
No, it's fine. I don't know.
Chris Morris.
All right. I don't have like a funny minute for this. I just think that unlike when we were racing to get to the moon, we don't have like a clear enemy that we're competing with to like rally the whole country around. Everyone is so like
good call.
concerned about like what the fuck Justin Bieber is up to and why Brangelina split, and everyone's pretty fucking pretty fucking sidetracked. So no one's really like invested in like, yeah, I'm gonna go to school and be like an engineer and like go to fucking Mars. That sounds awesome. It's like, no, I want to grow up and be like an Instagram model and like a Snapchat celebrity. And so I think until we get our shit together as a country, people are like not going to be motivated to make like a goal that requires like an entire nation to rally behind. Like, we're going to send someone to a fucking planet. Until that happens, no matter how much money they throw at it, it's going to be a very difficult task to accomplish in our lifetime.
It's a genuinely like grumpy individual. I would agree. I think actually you're probably.
But you can get Justin Bieber like shots on Mars. It's only like 4-minute delay.
Oh my god!
Like I mean,
I'm gonna award you one seat on the first ship. that goes to Mars.
I don't want him. He said everyone was going to die.
Yeah.
Elon Musk said that. Obama didn't say that.
Change starts with you, Chris.
That's right.
Change starts with you.
Fuck it,
Be
I'm
the
out of here.
change you want to see in the world.
I'm out of here.
If you want to change this country, you got to change yourself.
If it's not be the change you want to see in the world, it's be the change you want to see on Mars.
All right, I'm out of here. Peace.
I would also like to award you a healthy competitor in the Syrian space race with the Isolnauts.
The Isolnauts.
Oh my god.
The Isolnauts. I thought.
They're just gonna
That would get us to space.
They're
Really
just going to blow their
fast.
own. They have no rocket program because they just keep blowing it up. All right. Anyway. The only movies. All right, second topic, right? Okay, great.
Yeah.
The only movies we're allowed to make right now are ones based on games. That's the new rule. That being said, J.J. Abrams continues to drop hints about upcoming Portal and Half-Life movies. They're talking with Valve. They've hired writers. So, do we want this? For the record, we talk about video game movie crossovers all the time, but this is a franchise and a potential director that could be, or at least production company, that could be setting a pretty high bar. So I'm curious to hear what you guys think. We were talking about Portal at work the other day and how awesome it is, and Half-Life obviously has its, place on some echelon of respect. I imagine there's been a lot of Valve speak today, so I'm not necessarily interested in saying why this should happen or not. What I'm interested in is whether we want it to happen, right? So, Mr. Morris.
I feel like you just said that. Okay.
I mean, I'm all for more video game movies that are respecting the source material. I think that they've kind of struggled because they try to do too much, or they try to wrangle in an additional audience that has no experience with the game, which is, it makes sense, right? Movies are big, expensive enterprises. You want to bring in more people to the franchise. Mm-hmm. However, with Half-Life and Portal specifically, is I don't know, do we really want this? If Valve isn't even, continuing with the franchise, what's the point of making a movie?
Aren't they, though?
I mean, who knows, right? But it just... Okay, so they're going to make a movie and they're like, oh, by the way, we're doing Half-Life 3 now. It just seems like a really underwhelming way to be like, by the way, we're making more video games. Right?
Sure.
That's all I got.
I will award you the lens flare coming off of GLaDOS's, eyeball lens. How about that?
Sure. I'll take it.
Okay.
I would also like to add the first movie of the Half-Life movie series called Half-Life 3.
I hope the movie that comes out is called Half-Life 3.
Colon confirmed.
Wouldn't that be the best fuck you to everybody?
Yeah,
That would be the best. Yeah.
We're gonna make an interactive movie.
That was my minute, by the way. I'm seeding my
you're good?
minute.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm going to award you the colon from the title Half-Life 3 colon confirmed. Yeah. All right, Mr. Golish.
Hey.
Hi. Talk to me how you feel about the potential existence of a Portal and or Half-Life movie.
I don't give a shit. It's why do we need a Portal movie? Who wants a Portal movie? Who wanted a fucking any kind of these movies fucking suck. They've been bad. They just seem to be getting worse. And Portal, why? Who asked for a Portal movie? Is there really a movie there? I feel like the whole point of the Portal movie was it's a fucking puzzle game. You get through. There's some funny humor. What are they going to do? I suppose it could work really well because somebody would just wake up in this room and suddenly they got to step through some portals to solve a puzzle and somebody's talking about cake. And it's just okay, I guess that's a better premise than what they worked with for the Warcraft movie, so I can get behind that, I suppose.
You the cube or whatever it was called?
The companion cube.
That's no. There was a movie called Cube. Yeah.
Oh no, yeah. If they based the Portal movie on the movie Cube, it probably would be okay. But I mean, the movie Cubes already exist, and it's fucking great. Go watch it.
The first one, not 2 and 3.
Well, yeah. There's Cube Zero, which goes back to explain a little bit. It's a prequel to Cube, so you guys should maybe check it out.
I'm going to award you 30 extra seconds, I guess.
But it's just so. It's not exactly the same.
Fair enough. All right, you got your 30 seconds. Congratulations.
Fucking video game.
I know, right? It's kind of hard.
Can finish us up.
Yeah.
Sorry for spoiling your
it's
Cube.
Fine. No, I honestly, because if they do the Portal thing in a Cube kind of way, like that could be kind of cool. Like one person versus a party of people going from room to room and solving these puzzles and figuring out when they get to the end that it's all a fucking the cake is a lie, guys. You know, that kind of shit. But from a Half-Life perspective, I think honestly that only works. Like, make Half-Life the next Lego movie. Chew on that for a minute. You're welcome, everybody.
But Batman's the next Lego movie.
I know.
Is that it?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not.
Hanging ending, like cliffhanger ending,
All
guys.
right.
All right.
What are you gonna award him?
Have you seen the Warcraft movie yet?
Hopefully, one Will Ferrell.
I'm going to.
Guess what I'm dressing up for Halloween this year as?
I'm going to award you one
I'm not kidding.
Lego crowbar so that the first time you use it, it shatters into pieces and then they get stuck to the bottom of your foot.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Lego crowbar. All right. We've done it, everybody. Thank you for being patient with us over the past couple weeks. We do appreciate it. Work happens. Life happens. But we're going to keep chugging along, and you should keep listening. Thank you. Episode 114 in the books, so to speak. Everyone, thank you very much. Fellas, it's always a pleasure talking with you. Love these core panel episodes. Chris, safe travels back to Raleigh when the storm blows over, if it blows over.
I'll be probably stuck here for weeks at
you
this
could
rate.
fly home to another fucking storm, probably.
Yeah.
Hurricane to hurricane.
yeah.
Hurricane Matt to whatever they're calling this to go back. And
It's
then,
a typhoon if it's in the Pacific.
There you go.
Yeah, it's like
true.
typhoon.
Nice.
I learned that in school.
Good call. Well done. We're all missing Bernard here, though. It's like the 4 of the 5 founding members of Cheat Codes here, and so shout out to Bernard. We love you, buddy. You're not going to listen to this, but that's cool. It's been a while since we've had this many founding members in the same room. Thank you, dear listener, as always. And know that we're always curious to hear what you think. So please hit us up, cheatcodespodcast.com, on Facebook, Twitter. Get into the conversation. It's going to do it for us for now. Make sure to check out the Patreon page. You can become a patron for as little as $2 a month. Thanks to everyone who's jumped on board so far. We'll see you next week. Ready for the themed outro?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Get busy living or get busy cheat codes in. You're welcome.
Nice.
We'll see you next week, everybody. Thank you.